If anyone's wondering why Disney has become more overtly political in the last few years, well, it looks like you can thank Bob Iger for that, because now we got this newly leaked video that was recorded from Disney internally back in 2021. And in it, CEO Bob Iger has actually said that he wants to embrace more political content as a result of his reactions to the protests at the Capitol on January 6th. In recent years, the question of why exactly did Disney decide to throw their hat into the political ring has been burning on the tongues of everyone from the studio's casual viewers to their most vehement critics. And I'm not saying Disney being political is a new phenomenon, but it has been more overt in the recent years. According to a newly leaked video, it appears the answer all has to do with one Bob Iger and the events of January 6, 2021. This article talks about how it's pretty standard for a lot of companies to quietly embrace politics behind the scenes through various means like campaign donations and lobbying and such. But in 2022, the company decided to become more forward with their political leanings when then CEO Bob Iger decided to chime in on the Florida's Parental Rights and Education Act, which has now since become law. In that law, for people who don't know, because it's often misconstrued in the media, it basically means they're going to be holding off on teaching certain sex education material to younger children until they reach a proper age for it. Bob Iger was initially hesitant on opining on the Florida's Parental Rights and Education Act, but he did make a public statement on it after he was getting pressure from inside the company. And a lot of people, or at least they were saying publicly, that the pressure was from some of their employees, but it really didn't pass a sniff test. That why would Bob Iger care what a few low-level employees actually think about it? Well, it comes to find out he was probably getting pressure from Bob Iger, because even though he wasn't actually the CEO, he was still chairman of the board and very much a part of Disney's internal workings. In fact, when he left his position as CEO, he never even left his CEO office. He still maintained the office. And this is something a lot of people were saying. Bob Iger, the only reason he actually stepped down as CEO of Disney is because COVID was causing things to shut down and he didn't want to be responsible while that was going on. So he basically stepped away and let Bob Iger take the fall for everything that was going on during that catastrophe. Then he would come back in as the great savior that's correcting the ship and getting things back on track. And when he came back in as the CEO of Disney, he did put out this statement where he says he wants Disney to try to quiet the noise on talking about some controversial issues, things that he are very much responsible for Disney actually doing in the first place. So again, just letting Bob Iger be the fall guy for all the decisions that he was really making behind the scenes. But it's kind of important to point out, though, that he doesn't think a lot of the stuff that they were saying was political. It's like, fine, we won't be political, but I don't even know why you were saying what we were doing is political to begin with. It's like, no, it is. You can talk about certain issues. That's fine. But it's the manner in which you actually talk about certain issues determines whether it's being overtly political or not. And Disney is definitely taking the latter approach to a lot of these. But this new video that's been coming out from Disney, or from CEO Bob Iger, that was leaked by Christopher Rufo, who shared it on his own personal X account. I got it keyed up to kind of an important point, but you could check out his X account. I'll link it in the description of this video if you want to see this video in its entirety.
And I think that we have to be less cautious, as Bob, I think, was just alluding to, about such things, and not be concerned. Like just commenting about what happened in Washington last week, that's not political on our part at all. We know that what we saw was fundamentally wrong, and that it was rooted in hatred and disrespect and contempt and intolerance. And we should feel free as a company to comment about that without retribution.
On the surface, this doesn't sound too bad because it's a big event, and as a company, they want to make a comment on it. But you have to take into consideration this had literally nothing to do with them as a company. At least with the Parental Rights and Education Act of Florida, there could be an argument to be made that it has something to do with them since they have theme parks in Florida. But a protest at the Capitol had nothing to do with them, but still they wanted to chime in on it. But even then, if you want to do that, your choice of words is very important. If you don't want to alienate a large section of your audience, you could say one thing and it alienates one side. You can say another thing and it alienates the other. So you have to be very careful if you're going to make a statement. And as a company, Disney needs to take into consideration, is there a cost benefit analysis of making a statement on this issue? If it's only just detrimental to the company, then to their shareholders, they have an obligation not to actually opine on it. Even if the CEO personally wants to make a statement on the matter, he probably shouldn't do it. But this is something that I think Disney understands is not beneficial for them as a company. And that's why after he came back, he said he wanted to quiet things down on controversial topics and things like that. Then a year later, he basically said the exact same thing. Disney CEO says company will quiet the noise in culture war, according to analysts know. And this is from September 20th of 23. So pretty much a year after he made the first statement where he said he wanted to quiet noise on culture war issues, which essentially suggests that Disney as a company hasn't learned their lesson at all and they're just going to keep doing the same thing. I'm guessing maybe in the fall of this year, probably around their earnings call timeframe, he'll probably make a similar statement saying like, we're going to quiet down on culture war issues or whatever, and we're going to stop being political. But the genie's kind of already out of the bottle on this one because Disney has shown that they're an overtly political company. So if they were to change course right now, that's making another political statement, but in the other direction. And since they spent the last several years cultivating a left-wing audience with their political commentary, well, then by alienating them, they're basically abandoning the audience that they've cultivated these last several years in favor of an audience that have all but abandoned them. And that's why I think Disney is going to continue to double and triple down on what they've been doing with the political content until they're basically forced to try to change course. And right now we're seeing that internally at Disney, where you got Nelson Peltz trying to attempt basically a takeover of the board and putting his own people on it by going directly to the shareholders and asking that they vote out some of the board members in favor of some of his own people, because what's been going on with the company has not been to the benefit of the company. And all of this is at the direction of Bob Iger, which ultimately Nelson Peltz wants to see gone. Now, whether that actually happens or not remains to be seen. We just know that there has been internal friction over at the company because of the direction of Bob Iger. And a lot of people would probably point to this and be like, oh, well, this is get woke, go broke, right? No, like I said before, they've been political for quite some time now. I mean, Bob Iger has even talked about running for president in the past before. I mean, he's given statements on what he would do if he were to run, or his campaign promises and things like that. And it's pretty much just the generic talking points. I mean, basically political answers, kind of like what you see in that video where he was saying like, oh, we were just talking about issues that are important to us. We weren't trying to be political. But that's just where Bob Iger's mind is at, though, is he is politically ambitious and he does think in those terms. And I think that's why Disney has taken the direction that they have taken in recent years. There is an off-ramp for Disney right now, though, and that is basically just playing everything straight down the middle. If you tried to make a drastic change, like I said before, in the right wing or the left wing side, well, then you're going to alienate one side or the other. If you make a big statement about what you're doing and what your plans are like this, if you're saying we're not going to be political anymore and we're just going to appease the right wing, well, then you're going to alienate the left wing side and vice versa. So you just have to just taper everything away, do it quietly and over time, and you can bring back in your audience and kind of return to form. But I don't think that would actually work if you still have someone like Bob Iger in charge over at Disney, because he's the face of the company going overtly political, and you need to get rid of him as a CEO if you want to kind of bring back the audience that you've lost in these recent years. And I know Bob Iger doesn't want to leave, so it's just a matter of whether the board will force him out and whether someone like Nelson Peltz will have a say in that or not. But let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below. And if you like this video, make sure you click the like button and share the video, because it really helps out the channel. And don't forget to subscribe if you want to stay up to date with the latest in entertainment news. Thank you.